Okay, so I'm going to start off with what the client can see, what's our end goal on the audit files. So I'll show you once the audit file has been set up, you have the ability to link your client to the audit file. The system then sends them automatically a login details. So it will send them the URL as well as their password, which they then can use to log in onto the system and view their audit files and interact with it as well, which I will show in more details. So the URL gets sent to them. They'll then click on that, will open up, and it will open up their sites that they are linked to. So this specific user has been linked to a couple of our dummy or test sites. Just to show you the information, it will show you the main contact details. It will show you the site name, as well as who's the owner of the specific audit file, how many service areas that you build up there, how many users are linked to this audit file, how many units, this is monitoring units, are set up, and what type of file is it. So we've got two different types set up currently on the system, which is your PRP, your pest control file, and then we have a hygiene file. And then on the health score, I will explain that in a bit, this is very valuable to yourselves, that you can see if everything is running smoothly on the site. So obviously you can see this is not looking too good, but it's because we're using this as a test site. So just to explain the groups, so the client will have the ability to set up groups for themselves. So this is now for guys like, for example, KFC and your area managers. They'll have the ability to go and see all of the sites that they have been linked to, and then they can group the sites where if they've got a pest control service provider that's got an audit file, they've got a hygiene or cleaning company that's got a file there, and they've got, for example, a maintenance company that's got their audit file there, he can then go and link all of those different file types together in one site, basically. So they'll be able to see this one site, and then all of their audit files will then be grouped here. All three different audit files will be grouped here. So this is just a bit of a management site for the customers to use. So they can then go and click on this, and this is what the client will see. This also resizes based on the size of their screens. And the customer logo will display there, your company logo will display there. And then we've got a couple of automated fault type entries here, and this will be these ones here on top. So they are always there. And the trend graphs, let me just quickly run through each of these. So if you scroll down, you've got a different, you've got this selection area here where you can set different parameters. So what time period do you want to see your graphs? What do you want to see? Which specific service area, so they can drill down or they can keep it on all. If you want to see a specific species type, what's the actual infestation of a specific species, you can drill down to that, and you can drill down to a specific unit type. So if you just on the main graph, you will be able to see basically the health score of the site at this specific point in time. So it will take all of your scans and logs that was done on the specific service date, and then we then calculate and show you what's the health of the site. So the higher your infestation are, the lower your health score will be. So you obviously want to keep your infestation as low as possible, and that will then display on this graph. So obviously this is a bit skewed because it's our test site. And then, like I said, we can drill down to a specific unit. So we're going to go to a specific service area, and then a unit type. Let's say I want to see a road and bait station. And then I can drill down to a specific unit. So that will then show me the actual levels logged on these different service dates over the specific period. So for the last year, I set that parameter. So it will show you that 1 is low, 2 is medium, 3 is high, and 4, it's very high. So I'll show that to you on the scans, how that works. We also have the ability, or the client also has got the ability to print these graphs out. So that's the first area. And then the second one is your trend report. So your trend reports, we've got a couple of reports here: site overview report, a not scanned report, treatment reports. This is your service area treatments, which I'll explain in a bit, your replacement date report, and your batch report. So your site overview report is the one that gets used the most. So this is basically a snapshot of a specific service that was done. So they also have a parameter settings here to say what service type do I want to view. So they can click on monthly. They'll then see all of the job cards that's set to that specific job category, or they can search for a date range. And then based on that specific setting there, your category, we will then display the job cards that fall in that category. So they will then select that, say generate report. And this is your service report, your overview service report. So you can then see here, we display the amount of units that you have on the site, how many was scanned on the specific date, how many of the units was not scanned, units with activity, units without activity. You can see how many service areas you've got, how many of those service areas were serviced and how many not. And all this is automated based on your scans that was done by the technician. And we also show you the unit distribution. And then in detail, we'll show you all of the different logs here. So for this specific service area, my road and bait stations, I can see each scan, what was the activity, what's the unit type. And so we segment them based on different unit types. So your insect monitor, your store product insect monitor. And then we show you this based on the activity level. So now we group it to show you which units were scanned at a 25%. And which ones were 50%. So we can see which is the problem areas. And then it will also show you which units were not scanned. So I'll show you on the admin side that you have the ability to raise a corrective action. So if the technician doesn't have access to the specific bait station or monitoring unit, they can raise a corrective action and assign this to the client. So that's the corrective actions, which I'll show you in a bit. This report is also printable. Let's go back to PRP. And then the other reports, just to give you a quick run through, like I explained, you can draw a non-scanned report. Your treatment report is basically your service area treatments that gets done. So if the infestation is very high in a specific service area, you then can scan the service area unit, which you then log what you did to, what treatments that you apply to sort out the problem in that specific area. So the auditors want that on a separate report, and that's what we display here. So it's an actual log of what was done. So we can also search for a certain date ranges if we want to, as well as the service areas. And then this is basically what the logs would look like. We expanded on this quite recently, where you have the ability to put in your dilution rates, how much of the specific mixtures you used, and what method you used. So all of that also gets logged on the service area treatment logs. So I will show that to you also in detail a bit later when we go on to the admin side. And then the job cards, like I mentioned, you have to use the online job cards, the TCFG job cards, to be able to sync into this. So when you assign a job card to a technician, that job card gets linked to a specific audit file, or you have the ability to link it to the audit file or not, which I'll show you when we schedule a job card. Once linked, it will then automatically pull into your audit file once the job has been completed. So all of that happens automatically. So a client will also have access to that. So if they click on the job card, it will then open up and they can view the actual signed off job cards, your remedies, what was used, MSDS data sheets, links, everything is there, as well as signed off and by who it was signed off. So all of that information is visible to the customer and the auditor if they've got access to the file. The monitoring logs is the actual detail of each and every scan that was done. So this is now if there's a problem and you need to drill down and see exactly what's going on, what the problem is. So I can search for a specific date range to show me all of the scans that was done for the last 3 months, for example, and it will show me all of these individual logs. So this one area is one specific scan. So it's one log that was done by the technician. they can then filter based on certain service areas, or if they just want to see bait stations, they can select that, or show me everything that's very high, and then you can go and identify, if where the problem areas are. So I can search based on that, as well as if I want to see what problems there are, or what specific species is creating problems in which areas. Let's say some cockroaches there. Okay, I don't know if any scanned. Just see if we've got any of these. All right, so there we can see all of the scans with a specific species that was captured or identified, and we can then go see exactly which area it was, what date and time it was captured. So this is very detailed. I can also go and view where a specific pesticide was used on which logs in a specific date range. So this is information that the auditors would like to see. And then we've got the automated pesticide usage register. So as you scan and log that you use a specific pesticide, then or a remedy, the system will then automatically pull that into your log. So whoever's logged in, the client or the auditor, will be able to see the MSTS data sheets, the label, L numbers. All of this gets pulled in automatically based on the selection done by the technician. So that gets built up for you automatically. And then we've got the online corrective actions. So this is where the KFC red dots will come into play. The client's got the ability to go and create a new corrective action. They will then also select who's responsible for it, and as well as on the admin side, or the technician can also raise corrective actions. I'll show that to you when we get there. So the service provider will then go, or the client will go and say, okay, action required by service provider, and they can then populate a corrective action. So just to show you what the red dots basically look like. So the client can open that up. It shows you initiated by, description, what's the problem, action required, action type, date, due date, status of it, so it's not resolved. And then on the red dots, there's additional questions that's been filled in, that's been requested by KFC that they want answered by different parties as they go through and handle those the red dot corrective actions. So those are all the questions already been built up. So once you get going with that, you have the ability to kick off immediately using the red dots. You can then the client then's got the ability to assign a specific user, so they will then see the service provider's information here. They can click on that, and once selected, you will get a notification to say that there's a new corrective action raised, and the system also gives them an ability to upload any images. So if there's a pest sighting, they can take a photo, upload it, and you'll be able to see that on the corrective action. So the corrective action can only be closed by the person that initiated the corrective action. So that's based on ISO standards, and it's been built around those processes. So you have the ability to go and add add messages to tell the client that this problem has been resolved, and the client then needs to go and close off the corrective action, and vice versa. If you go, or your technicians on site, they raise a corrective action because they didn't have access to a specific bait station, for example, then the client will get that notification. Once resolved, they will comment on it, and you get a notification, and you guys can then go and close that action. So you can also see and filter based on if they're resolved or not resolved, or due, and you'll be able to track and see everything what's going on with these specific corrective actions. So it gives transparency to all parties involved. So, and it's logged on a system, and it's instantly accessible, which makes it very valuable. All right, and then we get to the document side of things. So this is the company documents and all of our compliance documents that we need to upload to fill up this audit file. And all of these different file types will only populate and display on a specific audit file if you upload documents into it. So for example, if you don't need the service specifications on the specific audit file, and you don't upload anything there, and which I will show you on the admin side of things, then that file type will not display in this audit file. So just to show you what it displays and how it looks like, you'll then see, or the client will then see, all of the documents. Because I've got roles, I have the ability to edit this. The client won't be able to edit these dates, but they can click on this document and they'll be able to view whatever you uploaded into the specific file. So like I mentioned, this is our test site, so none of these are actual documents. The client will be able to see that if it's expired or not, but you will get notifications from the system 3 months before any of these documents expire, 1 month before, as well as on expiry. So the system will tell you that there's something wrong with this audit file. And the same for all of the other documents. Like I mentioned, if you upload documents there, it will display in the specific area. Right, so let's build up an audit file. We're going to go to our lead, go to the relevant branch, and then go and search for your lead. KFC, I'm going to use that as a sample. All right, going to click on our client. Okay, so on the customer view, on the lead information page, if we scroll down, you'll see, once you have the roles, obviously, you scroll down, you will see the site area. So this is where we're going to build up the audit site or the audit file, and we're going to click on add, and the system will open up your admin screen. So if you click on that, you will have the ability to see all of your additional addresses here as well. So if one client's got multiple sites where you need to build up a file for each of the sites, you can add those addresses under the additional addresses, and then that will display here, which you can then link. So we can say KFC Audit Park. And then we have the ability to upload the customer's logo. Let's go to documents. Okay, see logo. What I'd suggest also to maybe just have a file where you I'll just quickly get it here. Sorry, I've got so much stuff here. Go see logo. Here we go. Just to have a file with all of your customers' logos. You can get most of them from the internet download, or you can ask your client to send it to you. So this just displays on the audit file when the client views it. So very important is to select your site type or your file type, because this determines the structure of your audit file. So just make sure that you select your PRP, and you click. That will then create your audit file or your admin area for the specific audit file. So just to quickly run through that, first area here will be my service areas. This is where I'm going to build up my different service areas, as well as the monitoring units and my service area treatment units for the specific site. This will give me an overview of how many units there are on this actual file. This is my admin area for my corrective action. So if you need to raise a corrective action from admin side, you will do it here. Click create corrective action. We can build up one a little bit later. And then also, when we do your setup, before you start, we can set up a default group of users that will always be on all of your audit files. So we built that because a lot of guys requested that certain admin ladies or admin people work with certain sites, and other guys work with other sites. So it's a little bit segmented. So you have the ability to manipulate who can view and work on this audit file or not. So if you want to add just additional user, you just click on add user. It will ask for your name, surname, email address, and it will then link that profile to this audit file. And then if they go into audit files dashboard, that will they'll be able to see that specific audit file. So default users, to show you where we set that up, you have this little button here. It says default users. So Binion branch, if you just go to your relevant branch, you'll see this is your default group of users. If you want to add anyone, if you click on that, you'll see everybody that's been linked to this specific company, and you can just say select add, and they'll be added to your default group of users. So every time when you create a new audit file, it will automatically link these users to that audit file. Right, so that's your users. This is the same area where you will link your client, and you'll do that only after you've done your first service on the site. But like I mentioned, you'll say name, surname, cell phone number, and email address. We will then, as I mentioned, create a login for this client. We'll email that information to the client, and they'll be able to view the audit file. But we only usually do that after the labels and stickers has been installed and your first service has been done. Otherwise, the client's going to log in and there's no data to view. And then your document uploaders, I'm going to explain that in a bit. And all right, so that's that for now. So let's just start with the documents first. So there's two different document areas or groups of documents that you need to upload to the system. So we've got what we call your branch specific documents and your site specific documents. So your branch specific documents, you'll click on branches. Go to your branch. And once you have the roles, you'll be able to see this branch uploader here. So it's your branch documents. So all the documents that you upload here will be automatically populated to all of your audit files. So this is documents like your company documents, your letter of good standing, BE certificates, tax clearance, all of those kind of documents. You'll basically group them under your company documents. Your treatment specifications is usually the same for all of your sites. General tips. All of these different audit or file types has been requested by the branches. Again, if there's a specific file type that you need, that your customer wants on their audit file, we can add that up for you. And if you, again, what I mentioned previously, if you don't upload documents into any of these file types, it will not display in your audit file. But the nice thing about this is if your tax clearance expires, you literally go and upload it in one spot, and it will auto-populate through all of your audit files, which saves tremendous amount of time. And again, we tell you when that document's going to expire, so you're never going to guess again when those documents are going to expire. We tell that and we manage that for you. So to upload a document, you just select an expiry date, you choose your file. Very important to give it a name. So if it's a tax clearance document, you'll say save, and that document will then drop into this area. Just to mention, our DocuFlow, our paperless document management tool, is also built in here. So this is a generate document. So if there's specific documents that you want to be system generated, meaning you've got a template, something like a service level agreement, but that will be a site-specific document. Just using that as an example, you'll be able to create the document here, populate all the information, save, and then that DocFlow document will also display here as one of the documents. All right, so that's your branch-specific documents. And then if we go to site-specific documents, so we've got this admin area open here. So on your site-specific documents, that will be stuff like your site plan, your customer in-house training register, like I mentioned, your service level agreement, all of the things that's only relevant for this specific site. You'll be able to upload in this area. And again, like your quarterly inspection reports, service level agreement, training registers, all of those documents can be built up on DocFlow, meaning that you have the ability to electronically generate it, populate the information, send it through to the client. They can sign it digitally, and it will drop into the system as a PDF, electronically signed document, meaning you can go completely paperless. You don't need to have any documentation or paperwork. It works exactly the same as the branch-specific documents. We add an expiry date. You select your file. We can upload any file type, Word document, Excel, PDF. So there's no limit to the amount of documents that you can upload. What type? It's just obviously important that if your customer views it, that they view the document, that they have the program to open that specific document. So if you want to upload CAD documents, the client obviously needs to have that system. You need to give it a name, and it will then drop that information into the audit file. Okay, so to build up your service areas, we'll go to the service area, and we're going to say add service area. So this will basically be, for example, KFC. They're pretty basic. They've got front of house. And you label that, because this is very important, because this will display on your audit file and on your reports. So if the auditor wants to see what's happening in the front of house, they'll be able to see that. So make sure that you label this accurately. And then you also have the ability to upload a site map for this specific service area. So some bigger sites, they don't want one massive site plan. It's just too big. You can't see the details. You can actually break that up per service area, and you'll upload that, and this will display in a separate file on your audit file that will say service area site maps, and it will display separately. So again, you just go and upload it. Any file format, PDF is always the best, but you can again upload any file format. So after you labeled this service area, you'll say save, and your service area created, and it will then immediately go to this area again, and you have the ability to add additional service areas. So if you just want another one, just click there again, back of house, save, and that's your service areas done. You can add again as many service areas as you want. Like I mentioned, very important to label this properly and structure this properly, because this is how the system is going to report. Then we go, if we want to now create the units, so we click on the actual service area, and that then goes into this service area, front of house. So to start here, we want to build up a couple of units. So front of house, when you click that unit, it will give you the screen, and you can then select the different unit or monitoring type. So the first thing we need to start is always remember to have one service area treatment unit per service area. So just to explain that is, again, I mentioned it earlier, but if you have infestation in a specific service area, the auditors want to see what did you do to get rid of that infestation. So this is when your activity is very high and your technician need to spray, for example, do a treatment in that whole area. So then what they will do is they will scan this unit. Like Renier mentioned, he's got a little Perspex board with a specialist logo on that's mounted somewhere, and it looks nice. He puts that service area treatment there, and they will then scan that, and the system will then ask them different questions to say, what are you treating for? Is it cockroaches, ants, crawling insects, flies, or whatever? It's got a couple of categories there. So you'll select that. You'll select the method of application. You'll select your dilution rates if that's relevant. What remedies you've used, and it will then log that as a separate service area log or treatment log, which I showed you earlier, where the guys can see what they need to do. So always remember one service area treatment for every service area. So how many units do you want? Only one. And just give it a label if you want to, service area treatment, say add unit, and the system will then automatically build up that unit. So that's a unique ID. And then we also build up the QR label for that. So let me just select my Codex printer. That's basically what the QR label looks like for your service area treatment for your front of house. All right, so let's go build up a couple of extra units. So I want to add some rodent bait stations. I want 2 bait stations, and then tamper tamper-proof bait stations. This is important to label correctly because this needs to display on your site map and it should have the same label, obviously. So, and we will then build up, if you need 100, you can just type in 100 there and we will then build up those units and label it automatically. So there's my 2 tamper-proof bait stations, 1 and 2, and then I want to add an ILT, insect light trap. How many? Just 1 ILT. So add units, and there they all build up. So also per service area, we give a nice overview here of how many units you have set up in the specific service area, and then these are the actual units with all of their data. So if you click on a unit, you will be able to see, once we've scanned, you'll be able to see all of the logs for this specific unit. And also we've got the asset tracking and the asset management module also linked to this. So for an ILT, for example, you can create an asset on the system and you can link those as well. So you can track where your units are. And then on your ILTs, we also built in the ability for you to add in expiry date for the globes. So if you click on that, you'll see here is your replacement date. So you can click there and say when it should be replaced on a specific date, say save, and then the system reports on this. So you can go and view all of your replacement dates, which units needs to be replaced. And the system will also send you a notification in advance that the specific unit will need replacement, bulb replacement. Right, so all the units built up, and so we just go back and do the same for the other service areas. So just to add in, if you now need to print your labels, you have the ability to print all of the unit labels at once. Also, just a tip here, we experienced, or some guys experienced issues where they print a specific service area and they tear that set of stickers off, put it one side, go and print the next one, tear it off, put it one side, that some of those got mixed up. So they basically gave the wrong service area service area labels to the wrong technicians for the wrong site, and then they're going to actually experience errors. So it's just a tip to print your whole site stickers in one roll, and only tear that off and then hand it to the techie to make sure that that doesn't get mixed up. So if you want to print it, you can print them individually like I showed you here. So if a bait station gets damaged and the sticker disappears and you need to replace it, you can then just go back onto the system and print that individual label, or you have the ability to go print all of the labels at once. So system will then automatically generate all of that for you, and you just hit print and there you go. So you need to set up a job card, and you can also link this to a recurring job card. So I'll also just show that. So we go to this client, we say create job card. It will give you this pop-up to say, this client's got an audit file, and do you want to link this audit file, this job card to a audit file? So just to scroll up to show you, so we've got our normal job card here, all of our information's there. Scroll down. Very important thing to do is this job categories. Okay, so to explain the job categories, there's a couple of report settings built in the back end of these job categories. So for these ones here, extra service, follow-up service, audit inspection, once off, and sectional service. So those couple there. If you use, or let me just start from the other side. So if it's a monthly contract and we select monthly, and on this actual job card, the system will require the technician to scan all of the units, meaning it's a full service that's going to happen on that site. All of the units need to be scanned. So if there's any units not scanned, the system will give you an unscanned report, or basically show you that specific units were not scanned. So on those units that were not scanned, there must be a corrective action created, meaning that the technician didn't have access to those units, or the unit is broken or missing, or something must be created to show that the technician was actually there. So you need to service all of the units on all of these job categories. But if you're required to go and do an extra service, a follow-up service, because there's a high infestation, so after 2 days, Geraldine explained this to me, so after 2 days, if there's very high activity, you need to go back, go and treat that specific area, and you need to return a couple of times until the problem has been resolved. So all of those additional services that get done, you will select one of these categories. And the system will then only display the logs that was scanned and the units that was scanned. It will not give you an unscanned report. So just to make that clear, so we're going to say this is a monthly, we're going to do a full service. Again, we can add some colors, add in all of our information that we want to add here. And then it will constantly ask you to make sure that you don't forget to link this up until the point that you link it. So if there's multiple sites on this customer, it will list all of them here, and it will, you can then link this job and the job sequence, if you do a recurring job, automatically onto this onto the audit file. So it will say here, do you want the recurring schedule also to link? We'll say yes and say save. Now this job card, once completed, and all of the recurring job cards that we're going to build up now will be automatically linked to your audit file. So here we go and build up our normal job card. Integrated. Okay, just use that. Also, just to show you a couple of things, so what we've built in now, we have the ability to edit the line item name on this actual line, on this actual job card, so you can add that in, as well as we built in our stock management, which we released now, as well as job costing. I'm not going to get into that now. I can show that to you guys at a later stage. So I build up my job card, and then we're going to build up when this job needs to be done, who the technician is. I want to schedule it for today. Let's say it's at 1 o'clock. Say schedule job. And then we're going to build a repeat. So when is this contract going to end? 1 year. You have the ability to say include weekends or not. So if it's not ticked, it's going to exclude weekends. And let's do the custom dates. So just to show you how that works. So it's built up. It's going to ask you what service you want to apply. And then you click on custom date. So now this job cards, this is the line item and price that will display on all of your recurring jobs. So you click on custom dates, and then you have the ability to go and click and select which dates, specific dates you want the service to happen. So it's a monthly, and we're going to do it on those dates. Okay, we already have one for this month. Let's go and select that. And then also on this, if you need to add in extra job cards, you can select that, and as many as you want. So once you build that up, we say submit, and then that sequence will be built. So there we go, and it will repeat 12 more times based on your custom date selection. Right, so now this job card has been scheduled, and it's ready for the technician to make use of it. So they will then go onto TechieView, job list, and they'll see their job. Again, for the guys that's not using TechieView at this stage, once a technician logged in, they'll see all of the jobs for the specific day. They also have the ability to go and view based on a date picker all the other dates, or maybe for the whole month, which jobs has been scheduled for them. So it will display here when the job needs to start, what time it should be finished, customer details, also the address. So if they click on this, it will open up Google Maps, which they can use to navigate to the site. So it helps them to save some time there. They'll view the job card, the technician also needs the audit file roles. So it's important for you guys just to let us know which technicians will need those roles. So if you can just send that to us in a mail, as well as the admin users who should have access to the audit files as well, please. So we got the time tracking switched on for this technician. So we can click start before they can see any other buttons. And then the time tracking will then start on this job. And the technician, once on site, they will click on audit file. So it's the extra button that they will see. So I'm just going to show you TechieView, the app. I will send you guys a video on how the app, how to set up the app and how the app works. It's really, really basic to use. And it's, I'm just going to run through this just to show you how you can make use of TechieView to scan as well. So just to explain, it's basically a dual process at this stage where the technician view their job cards on TechieView, which is the online browser-based application. This is a proper app, so you'll see that it resized based on your screen, so it's mobile friendly. And then once they get to the units, when they need to scan, the guys usually flip over to the offline app because it works faster than the online app, as well as if you need to go down into a basement and you need to go scan units. I know Michael and them you guys had a problem there at Tiger Brands down in the basement. So you can then go down into those areas and you have the ability to scan with no internet or data connection. And once you have connectivity, all of that data syncs back to the system automatically. And then when you need to sign off the job card, you'll then basically use your signatures on the TechieView job card. So, but they also have the ability to do the scans on TechieView. Corrective actions and unscanned units we can only display that on TechieView because we instantly, when you open this up, we show you live what's going on those corrective actions. So there's too much data for us to sync onto an offline application. So some functionalities, we are limited on some functionalities that we cannot give access to on the offline application. So we built it that the critical operations can be done on your offline app. So let's just go through some of those scans. So you basically click scan. There's a little QR reader. For the first time when you open this up, you can download this QR reader. So it will just give you an extra button on your keyboard. So once you click here, it will open up the keyboard on your mobile device. There's a little barcode icon that you can click and it will then open up a QR or a barcode scanner. So I'm just going to do that manually because I can't demonstrate that with on the PC. I'm just opening up that unit. So I'm just going to scan it on my phone and manually enter in the unit label details. So I'm basically just getting the specific unit unique ID. So if you scan it, it will populate this information automatically. All right, so this information will populate automatically, and once scanned, we identify the specific unit linked to a specific audit file sitting in a specific service area, and we can then log all of this information. So these questions differ based on the type of unit that you're going to scan. So for this one, it's a rodent bait station. I'm just going to do one of each that we build up on this audit file so you can see the difference. So first of all, it's going to ask for my activity. So this is how much of the bait has been eaten. So we can say the 25%. Action required, so no action required at this stage. Is a unit broken? We do populate this as default, so you don't have to every time go and select this, just to speed up the time spent on scanning and logging this information. So it will say no, it will say good, and then you can add in information to say snails. We've got some snails in the bait box. That's why there's activity, and we can say submit, and then it's going to ask for species. So you'll see here the species will also differ based on your unit type. So this is all the different species that we can get in a bait station. How many did we get there? There was 2. We say add, and we can add in multiple different species. So this is more for your ILTs, where you've got different species of flies, flying insects caught there. So you can then add in multiples of those. So once you added all of those and you're happy, you'll say done. And then it's going to ask what pesticide you're going to use. If you're going to use, you can skip this if you don't need to replace any remedy. But let's just say Racumin wax blocks. Amount, so we're going to put in 4. Some auditors require batch numbers. And we say add. You can also add in multiple different types of pesticides in one box. I know some guys mix it up. And then once you're happy with that information, you say done. And there's your scan complete. So it takes about 45 seconds or so, a minute max. I think, to go through all of this information is really quick to go and select all of the information. So there is quite a lot of time saving using a system. So the next thing I want to do is just scan the ILT. Okay, it will populate that information. Say submit. You see as ILT, front of house, and it's got some other questions here. So again, activity, you can say 25%, action required, none. Unit broken, no. Globes replaced, 1. Starters replaced, 1 if you want to. Globes not working, 0. Good condition. Replacement date, you have the ability to change that. Next replacement date information is there. We are going to build in an additional feature around this replacement date that we can build up automated reports and notify you for a specific time period which site's going to need replacement. I know Renier and some of the other guys have requested some changes here, so we will be expanding on that. So yeah, this is your ILT, couple of questions. Just to show you again, the species will then be different based on your flying insects. You can just say there 5 midgets, 10, done. Fly glue board, 1, add, and done. So then that information is all completed. And then the last one I want to show you is your service area treatment, just to show you that the information there is a bit different. So again, just to explain that, that gets used when there's high activity. You actually need to apply a service or treatment in a specific service area. The technician will go and scan the label in the front of house or back of house. So now it will jump immediately. It won't ask for activity level, so it will jump immediately to species, and then there's categories. It's not individual species. So let's say crawling insects. Say add. You can also treat for multiple different categories of species. Say done. What pesticide has been used? I don't know this stuff. I'm just going to use that document based somewhere. Amount. 15 grams, batch number. So then also you'll see that there's ability to add in a dilution rate, dilution to dosage rate, a quantity of pesticide used, dilution used, your method of application will then say it's spray, dust, fogging, baiting, and you can then add all of that. And then what equipment is used, we also have the ability to add in equipment based on these categories. So once you populated all of that information, just say add, and that information will then display. We're going to say done, and that information all instantly populates back to the audit file. Okay, so now the technician has identified that there is a unit that was not scanned, or he doesn't have access to the specific bait station. There's the room is locked, or there's obstruction. They can't get to the unit. They can go and raise a corrective action immediately while they're in the field. You also have the ability to do that on the admin side of things, which I'll show you in a bit. So how to raise a corrective action. First of all, it's a respondent, so your client will be listed here. So I'm just going to say Björn, he's now my client. What action is required? So action required by client. I'm just going to say XYZ, just to speed up the process. You give it a title, give it a description, what needs to happen, action required, type it in there. Due date, you can add in a due date if you need to, and this will help you also to monitor, to see and ensure that your corrective actions gets closed. So you can add in a due date, say submit. It will give you all of that information. They can add messages to give a more explanation what the issue is. And everybody linked to this corrective action will have the ability to add messages. So the technician has the ability to add additional users. And as soon as you do this, we also integrated SMSs into this corrective actions because it's so important that all parties get notified immediately that there's a problem. So if a customer identifies if there's a pest sighting and they raise a corrective action, you will get a SMS immediately from the system if your SMS is activated, obviously. And then also on all communication that happens, any comments that gets posted on this actual corrective action, all parties that's linked to this corrective action will get the SMS notification to say, as well as the email notification, to say that there's new comments on the corrective action, and you'll be able to have instant access to that. You can also upload images. So if the clients want to upload, like I mentioned, an image of the pest sighting, or the technician wants to add an image of the obstruction, and that they don't have access to a specific monitoring unit, they can take a photo directly from their mobile device. They'll just click on browse. It will ask for if you want to use your camera. We'll say yes, upload the image, give it a name, and say upload, and then the client will have immediate access to this information. So we can go to the actions log. So there's all my actions for this specific site, and the technician will also have the ability to view all of the corrective actions if he's got the roles, and he can then basically process those corrective actions. So I want to get back to my job list. All right, so everything has been added. We also built up all of the pesticides that you've used automatically onto the system, and it will also accumulate automatically. So if we use 100 Racumin wax blocks, 2 or 3 on every bait box, it will automatically add up the quantity of blocks that you've used. And then also, if you make use of the stock module, it will auto populate your chemical usage quantities in the back end of your service item. But this is something that I will explain in other videos and other training sessions, exactly how that would work. So if you don't have the stock usage, these items won't display here. So this is your remedies. Client will have ability to view the MSDS data sheets, and as well as if there's labels uploaded for the specific pesticides, it will show you as well. So once the client is, the technician is happy, all the work is done, they'll just go through the sign-off process. we've got the one-time PIN signature authentication as well, where the client, if they don't want to touch the technician's mobile device, they can just select one-time PIN, enter the customer's cell number and details, name, surname, cell number. The system will send a one-time PIN SMS to the client, to his cell phone number. He will then read back that PIN number to the technician, and we then authenticate that job card as signed off. The technician has the ability to sign off. I know for audit files, it's required that the technician sign it off, and the signature displays. And then once done, you will click complete, and then this job card will automatically display in the audit file. Let's just go back here. Let's just go to the audit file, back to site, PRP index. It will show me my job card. So there's my job card's been completed, and then the recurring job has been scheduled already for next month, or based on the date picker the date picker that you've built up on your recurring sequence. So to have the ability to view your corrective actions, you can just click on it on the admin side. You can see all of that. That information is instantly uploaded as soon as it's saved by the technician. All parties involved will be able to view. There will be your gallery of your images. You have the ability to add additional users onto this corrective action. And then there's a specific role that we can give to an office manager or operations manager or branch manager to finalize corrective actions as well. The reason for that is that you have different techies working on sites, so that the same techie is not going to be there to finalize the specific corrective action, that you will also still have the ability to do that. Quickly see if there's something else that I need to show you. Yeah, so that's basically a summary of how the audit files work. So yeah, I'm just going to take some more questions if there's anything that you guys would like to know.